Hey guys, how's it going? It's Chris Lemming at True Nature Hypnotherapy. Today I want to talk about imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? So a lot of people come to me and they're actually complaining about experiencing imposter syndrome and everything that goes along with that. And generally speaking, it's things like low self-esteem, feeling like they're just not good enough, no matter how well they seem to be doing on the outside, no matter how many compliments they receive. They might feel a sense of just lack of purpose, lack of fulfillment in their lives, or missed opportunities in their relationships and in their work. Whatever they're experiencing, it's definitely not. It's not fun. It's not a nice way to be. So it's worth looking at. What is going on here? What's actually happening when we talk about imposter syndrome? So the first thing that we have to understand is that imposter syndrome is tied in completely with our core identity, our belief in who we are. And if we have a poor sense of self-identity, or if we believe that who we are is somehow fundamentally flawed or broken or just unworthy of the good things in life, we're going to have a pretty rough experience. We're going to have a pretty rough road ahead of us. So addressing those core identity issues is crucial when we're talking about imposter syndrome. The second thing is to recognize so where do we develop that sense of core identity? Where do we pick up those beliefs about who we are? And of course, kind of logically and just, intuitively, we can just know that a lot of this is picked up in childhood, right? During our early developmental stages, as we're developing as human beings, our bodies, our brains, our personalities are all developing, we're picking up all this experience. And so what happens is that as we pick up these early experiences, whether they're positive or they're negative, these tend to be programmed, quote unquote, into our subconscious minds, into our central nervous systems, into our brains, into our general sense of who we are. So we get subconsciously programmed. If we're getting a lot of messages about us being not worthy, not good enough, maybe there's neglect that we're talking about, or abuse, or just not getting our basic needs met, then those experiences are going to contribute to a negative view of ourselves. We're going to just grow up just feeling like we're just not getting my needs met. It must be because there's something wrong with me, or my caregivers, or my parents or teachers or whoever are harming me in some way, or telling me that I'm just not worth it, or not good enough. Those messages get internalized because as children we just don't have the tools yet to be able to defend ourselves in an emotionally skillful way. So the third thing then is that once these subconscious programs are in place, we can carry them into adulthood, and we have a tendency then to repeat these subconscious programs over and over and over again. And one of the most common ways of doing that is through that internal dialogue, internal self-talk. And in this case, it's negative self-talk. And negative self-talk, I don't know if you have experienced it, but it can be really nasty when we stop and we listen to the voices, the quote-unquote, the voices inside our head, which are telling us that we're just not valuable, we're not good enough. Who do you think you are? You're a terrible person. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve happiness. These are the messages that a lot of people hear in their heads day after day after day. No matter how wonderful their life may appear on the outside, on the inside, there's this terrible loop tape that's just playing over and over again. And what happens is if nothing's done about that loop tape, if nothing's done about that negative self-talk, it can turn into like really self-fulfilling prophecy loops, where if you're telling yourself over and over and over again that you're not worthy of a good relationship, or you're not deserving of a good quality of life or happiness or enjoyment, then it's very likely that you're really going to experience that. Because as we think, so we are oftentimes. And in fact, how we think about ourselves and about our reality is 99% of, our experience of that reality. So that self-fulfilling prophecy loop, or those loops that kind of entrench themselves in our lives, can just lead to years and years and even decades and even a whole lifetime of unfulfillment, of constantly getting what we don't want. And so it's important to recognize that. And then the fifth aspect of imposter syndrome, from my point of view and the point of view that I approach hypnosis and hypnotherapy, is that essentially, fundamentally, what we're talking about here is a disconnection from our higher self, from our true self, our true being, that is, from the very beginning, just perfectly pure, innately good, basically good, and just whole and complete, just as you are. So when we're disconnected from that, when we are distracted from that, when we're not aware of that, when we are believing the lies and the untruths about who we believe we are, that again, most of the time we just picked up in childhood, and it's not even our stuff, it's somebody else's projection. Then when we become disconnected with our higher self, we start believing that we're not good enough, that we're not okay, that we're somehow broken or flawed. So knowing all that now, what can we do about it? What can we do about imposter syndrome? What are some of the solutions? So of course, one of the first things that I do with people in hypnosis and hypnotherapy is that we begin to reconnect with that higher self, that true self that's always there, has always been there, that we've never been separate from it. We've never been anything other than that. The only problem is that we're not recognizing that. We're not able to see that clearly. So in hypnosis, it becomes easier to just kind of drop down through all the stories and all the lies and all the programming, and to really have an experience of who you truly are, your higher self. The second thing that we often do is to then begin to clear out or heal early traumas, emotional hurts, emotional wounds from the past. And those might be from childhood, and they might be later in life, but generally we definitely want to start from the beginning and really just clear through any emotional traumas, emotional hurts, no matter how small they may seem on the outside. As children, we of course interpret a lot of things that are just small, quote unquote small experiences as being life or death. And so we honor that. We do some inner child work, and we do some emotional clearing and emotional healing. And then the third thing that we do is that we begin to rewrite all that negative self-talk. We begin to reprogram ourselves to, instead of putting ourselves down, instead of reinforcing this, this negative view of ourselves, we are able to rewrite all of that and be mindful of how we're speaking to ourselves, and speak to ourselves from now on with kind words, encouraging words, loving words, where we're really become our own best friend and our own best supporter. So doing all of those things in part, either separately or all together as a whole program, is really effective and really powerful. It's essentially just wiping the slate clean and viewing ourselves and experiencing ourselves in a completely different way, which by doing that, it's just absolutely then impossible to have imposter syndrome. It's impossible to see ourselves other than how we actually are, which is, again, pure, basically good, whole, and complete, just as we are. So I hope you found that interesting today. My name is Chris Lemig with True Nature Hypnotherapy. I use hypnosis and hypnotherapy to help people discover the power of their true nature, the power of their higher selves, and all the resources that they have to create a life for themselves that's truly meaningful, enjoyable, and fulfilling in all ways. So if you would like to reach out to me and talk more about this, please do. You can always call me at 206-747-1095, or go check out my website at www.truenaturehypnotherapy.com, and you can set up a time. We can have a free consultation and talk a little bit more about this. I hope you're having a wonderful day or night or wherever you are in the world. May you be well and may you be happy. Take care.